Uh-oh, she's in her gamer girl era. She's also in her forgot to charge her camera error. So we're filming here today, which kind of fits the theme. I wish I had done this on purpose. I really didn't. So last week I talked about the horror games that I'm really excited to play in the new year. So of course now that I've done all my most anticipated videos, it's time to talk about the games, the books, the movies that I loved most in 2024. So we're going to start with games. I said this in the previous video, but I started streaming on Twitch in April of this year, I think. And it's been really fun getting back into gaming. I had forgotten how cool of a storytelling medium games were, and as somebody who's obviously, this whole channel is devoted to movies and books, I love storytelling in all of its forms. So it's been nice to get back into games and see what's out there. That sounds like weird, but like when I was playing games as a kid, I feel like even the most story rich ones that I played kind of don't even compare to the stuff I've been playing now. It's kind of amazing. But quick plug, if you haven't caught me on Twitch yet, I'm over there pretty much every single Wednesday and Saturday night. It's a super chill time. We're always goofing off and having fun. And I've loved connecting with y'all in a like slightly more casual way. Like it's always like a casual and fun time on this channel, but it's just a little bit different from my like slightly more structured streams like Creepy Book Club and Does This Offend You? And for some quick context, because I haven't ranked games or talked about horror games on this channel before, this is a new thing. I'm going to be judging the following games, obviously based on my personal enjoyment, like how much I enjoyed the story, how much I enjoyed like the gameplay, like mechanics, and of course what you guys thought of the game, like my interactions with you guys during the game. So definitely in a particular order, here are my top 10 horror and horror adjacent games I played this year. Coming in at number 10 is The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. If this were a list based solely on visuals, this one would be near the top. Such a gorgeous looking game. We play as a paranormal investigator who has received a letter from 12-year-old Ethan Carter asking us to visit his hometown. But when we get there, we find out that Ethan is missing and we encounter many paranormal phenomena. I will admit some of the puzzles got me in this one. So I feel like my length of gameplay was a little bit longer maybe because it took me a little bit to finish the game. I love an open world game, but sometimes I get a little too excited that I get to run around everywhere and I miss things. But the wrap up of the story was really, really good, and it unintentionally kind of lined up like my last gameplay of this, like the end of the game kind of wrapped up very weirdly with some news that I had gotten that day, and it was really sad and I ended up crying on stream. This isn't the only game that made me tear up or cry this year though, so I love that for me. I love that's a thing that I do. Number 9 is the Until Dawn remake that came out this year. I had previously played the Quarry and really liked it, so I definitely wanted to play this one. We're following a group of friends who experienced a tragedy a year prior that left 2 of their friends dead after a prank gone wrong. They gather at the same mountain ski lodge on the anniversary of the death and find out that something or someone is out for revenge. I thought this was super fun. I really like the movie feel of this. Like it feels like you're making a movie because of your decisions. That was a kind of joke that I kept pushing while playing this one, that this is what it would look like if I directed a horror movie. And that's kind of what these games feel like, and that's really fun. It's slightly lower on the list because I didn't like the characters in this one as much. I played the Quarry first, so I feel like compared to those characters, which is technically this developer's more recent game because Until Dawn is a remake, I feel like the characters were just better in the Quarry. The ones in Until Dawn felt very much like stereotypical slasher characters, and that was about the extent of the fun for those characters, that they were so like they fit into the boxes so well. So I didn't really like any of them, and I think subconsciously that led to me getting a lot of them killed, much more than in the Quarry. All right, coming in at number 8 is Stray Gods, the role-playing musical. This was super fun and definitely one of the more unique games compared to everything I played this year. In the game, we play Grace, who suddenly inherits the powers of Calliope after her mysterious murder. The Elder Gods suspect Grace of the murder, so we have to solve the case and prove our innocence. And as Calliope is a muse, the power that Grace now has lies in her singing, and that's where like the musical aspect comes in. I thought the story was super absorbing and wonderfully queer. I feel like the audience as well, like we really got into the story as it got going. I really like how the decision making aspect not only decided like where the story went, like where the game ultimately went, but it also dictated how the musical numbers went. I thought that was really cool. And I can't even imagine how much work that took, like how complicated it would be to make all of those options. And despite the kind of like cut and paste nature of the songs, some of them are really catchy. And this was one that got us tearing up as well at a certain character's death in the game. All right, so number 7 for me is Little Nightmares. This is one that I was like kind of familiar with when I went in to play it. I had seen a lot of clips of this game. I hadn't watched like a full playthrough or anything like that, but I was familiar with like the look and the vibe of the game. So it was nice to finally be able to play it. We play a little girl who is a prisoner in what is called the Maw. The majority of the game is us trying to find like the lady of the Maw, the proprietor, the person who runs it, and find our way out. It's a really dark story, especially towards the end. Like when we finally get to see kind of like the main areas of the Maw and like what everything in the underbelly that we went through is kind of feeding. The game is super creepy, and I feel like the gameplay was really tricky at some point. Like it relies almost entirely on stealth rather than combat. And the visuals in this one were really good as well. Like I feel like they did a lot to play up like the scope of this like this world that we're in, especially for the fact that it's like a platformer style game, which usually it's just one viewpoint the entire time. It was really cool. So number 6 for me would have to be the Quarry, like I said, which is kind of technically the more recent game from these developers, as Until Dawn is a remake, so it's like kind of splitting hairs. But we have the same like gameplay, like the cinematic cutscenes with quick time events, same exact thing going on. I just really like the story a lot more in this one. I feel like in Until Dawn, they kind of threw everything at the wall. And at certain points, it felt a little bit chaotic, where the Quarry felt a little bit more focused to me. And I also loved the characters a lot more, which I said previously. I was way more invested in keeping more of them alive if I could. We play as camp counselors that get stranded at the end of summer camp when strange beasts begin to attack when night falls. We had a lot of fun with this one. I like the diversity of the characters a lot more, and the monsters were super scary and unique for what they ended up being. And despite one really bad fumble on my part towards the end, all I'll say is I'm really no good at like aiming and shooting like something quickly in a game. It's just not my forte. That's not my thing. Despite that, I saved a lot more people than I did in Until Dawn. All right, so the top half of this list is really hard to rank because I loved all of these, like loved them for completely different reasons. But I'm going to try my best here. So coming in at number 5 for me is Bramble, the Mountain King, which is a game based off of Scandinavian folklore, and we play as Ulla as we are trying to find our big sister in the woods at night. This is hands down the most visually beautiful game I've ever played. Like there were moments I had to physically stop and stare because the imagery was just so gorgeous. And I love folklore based anything. So I felt like the story with the monsters and the legends were incredible as well. So many really scary and unsettling moments to offset the beauty. It really felt like the duality of like the Fae, especially like in particular. They put up a really pretty front, but deep down they can be incredibly vicious. And I feel like this game understood that. It's a game that I wish I could play for the first time again. Next up in the number 4 spot for me is Killer Frequency. This is a game where it's important to remind you, I think, in this moment that I am judging like based on the experience of playing with you guys as well. Because this isn't a particularly pretty game, nor is it that unique, but we ended up having an absolute blast with it. So we play as a late night radio DJ in a super small town when an attack takes the sole police force out of town for a few hours. We have to double as a 911 operator for the night while it becomes apparent that a serial killer is on the loose. The game was really funny. There are a lot of hilarious moments that, or just like beautiful comedic timing in this game to kind of like break up the creepiness and kind of the monotony of the game a little bit, in a really nice way, in a clever way. And some of those jokes ended up being like recurring memes in our Twitch community, like Ponte's Pizza. If you know, you know. And I also liked the mechanics and the kind of monotony of doing the DJing tasks while also helping solve problems and save people from the killer. And the story ended up wrapping up in a clever way, like where I feel like there was some replay value, kind of seeing the hints that they were dropping throughout. We enjoyed this so much that I'm going to be replaying it in January over on Twitch. I'm calling it the Ponte's Pizza Party night. So look out for that on my Twitch. I'll talk about it on social media if you guys want to maybe come watch, if you haven't popped over on Twitch before and hung out with us. In the number 3 spot for me is Little Misfortune. So I did a cozy like game month in September. Like the entirety of September was like kind of cozy autumnal games, and this was one of the ones that I played. In the game we were playing Misfortune, who's a little girl who, despite her not so great family life, loves glitter and loves foxes, in this kind of meta story where a narrator who may or may not be trustworthy is guiding us through the day, a day that, according to that narrator, we will die. There are little catchphrases from this game that have entered my daily lexicon. Misfortune is such a unique character, and I love her so much. And for such a cute game, it had some incredibly dark and intense themes. I won't spoil the end of this game either, but it made me cry, resulting in yet another time I've cried on a live stream in true water sign fashion. So the number 2 game that I played this year was actually the first game I ever streamed on Twitch. And it is This Bed We Made. I played it actually twice this year because I loved it so much, and everyone else ended up loving it so much that we replayed it in June for my birthday. So in the game we play Sophie, who is a maid in a Montreal hotel in the 1950s. Sophie discovers some disturbing material in one of the rooms she's cleaning that leads to a mystery and a murder to solve before her shift is over. I picked out the game initially because I thought the murder mystery aspect would be kind of fun, but there were queer themes throughout this entire story. It's actually like embedded in the plot of the story. It is the plot of the story. That was such a surprise. Like I intentionally didn't look into it too much because I didn't want anything spoiled for me, and I ended up just being blown away that this is a queer murder mystery game. Like this is it's absolutely the plot of the game. This is also a choice-based game, so your decisions affect where the story goes. Because it's a choice-based game, I feel like those ones are really easy to replay and try and make different choices and see if you can get a slightly different outcome, which was also part of the reason why we replayed it in June. It was such a good game. I would replay it again in a heartbeat. And this is actually the first and only game from this developer so far. And it's like, to be so good, it's just incredible. I can't wait to see what else they put out. And that leaves the best game that I played all year, which is Night in the Woods. This was also actually part of Cozy Game Month, and it ended up being a huge hit. So we play as May, a young woman who has dropped out of college and returns to her hometown that is suffering from the closing of the mines that employed so much of the community. In our efforts to reconnect with our friends, we get wrapped up in a mystery involving the mines and the disappearance of one of our old friends from high school. This game had so much emotional depth to the characters while also being incredibly funny and heartwarming as well. It really hit all the points. And it was also stunning, just in a different way to games like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter and Bramble. The art was so beautiful and absolutely cozy. The autumn vibes were off the charts. I even now have a plushie of my favorite character from that game, Gregory. Look at him. He's so cute. And this is thanks to the lovely Kate, who gifted my Gregory to me. And Kate also has a plushie of May, the main character, because she also loved it so much. And this ended up being a longer gameplay. I think my longest one so far. It was 4 streams, all about 2.5 to 3 hours And it really helped, like the longer gameplay helped us feel connected to the characters and the story. I would play this again in a heartbeat as well. So those are my favorite horror games, horror adjacent games, cozy autumnal games that I played this year. Let me know like what horror, mystery, cozy games that you played this year that you loved, or just like any of your favorite ones in general. I'd love to hear them. I can always add more to my list because, like I said, I've been really enjoying getting back into gaming. And maybe come hang out on Twitch with us sometime. Come see what it's all about. It's a very chill time. There are more rankings to come. Obviously, I got to rank the books that I read this year, and then it'll be the last video this month, but I will rank the horror movies of this year. Again, I'm just waiting for Nosferatu to come out before I finish that ranking. So I will see you soon with a new video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.